Hello and welcome to the AAMI Virtual Town Hall for our Sterile Processing Professional members. Happy Friday and thank you for joining us. My name is Sabrina Riley. I'm the Vice President of Membership at AAMI and I'll be your moderator today. A couple of reminders, if you could please kindly mute your phone during the duration of the meeting. And if you have questions you would like us to respond to, please send them via the chat feature to my attention, Sabrina Riley, and we'll endeavor to answer your questions at the end of the session. After the town hall, AAMI will send all registered attendees a question and answer document with all the questions and responses posed today, as well as a list of links, to member benefits and other resources that will be mentioned here today. So we want to thank you for taking time to join us. The purpose of our town hall meetings are to hear about AAMI's new strategic goals for the next 2 years and what they mean for you and your organization. We'll also be providing you updates on upcoming initiatives, products, events planned for this year. And we want to give you, of course, an opportunity to hear again about your member benefits and to tell us what's on your mind. Before we get started, I do just want to thank each and every one of you on behalf of AAMI for all that you and your organizations have done this past year to combat the global pandemic. We really applaud your efforts and are in awe of all the hard work that you've done. So thank you again. And without further ado, I'd like to pass the gavel to my esteemed colleague from the great state of Maine, Steve Campbell.
Why, thank you, Sabrina. Thank you, everyone, for coming today. And it's bitterly cold here in Virginia today, right outside of Washington, and the snow is coming, but it's Friday, so all is good. I want to echo what Sabrina said, and thank you for taking part in today's town hall meeting. I know you're all busy, and I know it's Friday afternoon, and no one loves a Friday afternoon meeting. So you get extra bonus points for taking part in today's meeting. And I too want to thank all of you for your role in responding to the COVID pandemic. We can't thank you enough. So with that, let's get started. Today, we want to make the content as practical as possible. We want to focus on items that will affect you and your employer. And as Sabrina said, provide enough time for you to ask us questions. As you may have heard, AAMI's former president and CEO, Rob Jensen, retired in November. He moved from the DC area out to South Dakota, building a home, loving life, being close to family out there. The executive committee of the AAMI board asked me to serve as acting president and CEO, and will likely begin a search for a permanent CEO as we come out of, knock on wood, the COVID situation this summer. Until then, it's full steam ahead. We have a great board of directors. We have a terrific leadership team, many of whom you will hear from today. And we have a new strategic plan to guide us. So all is good on those fronts, all the ingredients needed for success. With that, Sabrina, do you want to take it to the next slide, please? Okay, speaking of the strategic plan, the AAMI board in November approved a new 2-year strategic plan, and the 3 goals on your screen are included in the plan, are at the heart of the plan. They are to expand our community of engaged stakeholders, to strengthen our operations internally. That means our IT infrastructure, our workforce, our offices, so forth. And the third is knowledge, expanding the resources available to benefit you and your employers. And this would be through standards development, education, communications, what have you. Now, behind each of these goals, there are 3 objectives. So, and then behind those are metrics that we use to gauge whether we're successful, and the board gauges whether we're successful in those. And then numerous tactics. And so there's a lot of meat behind what you're seeing today on this screen. So for instance, I want to just give you an idea of what an objective would be. For instance, there are objectives to increase our global presence through a number of different means, to customize knowledge so you can easily find it and it's available to you, and to develop numerous products that would fall under the knowledge category. So there's a lot of meat behind the curtain, so to speak, and it's all, if you're participating in a committee, so forth, you're probably working on the strategic plan, and you may not even have known it. So thank you if you are. Next slide, please. So I have two slides here before I pass the torch to my colleagues. This is setting the stage for what you will hear today. You will hear from our Vice President of Standards, Amanda Benedict, discussion about new and revised standards that are applicable to you. You'll hear about efforts to increase the speed of standards delivery, which is often a concern stated, and we've been working on that and made some good inroads, but we have a long way to go. You will hear about new education and certification programs. You will also hear throughout the presentations discussion about cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, combination products, and home healthcare. These four topics in particular, and there are other topics, but these four in particular are ingrained in, or starting to be ingrained in our standards development area, in our educational programs, and our communications and other strategies. So in some cases, they may be standalone documents. In other cases, they may be part of a standard or educational program. Two other items on this slide. There's a new digital platform that you will hear about. This will make all of our publications digital, and it will also combine with our standards delivery as a way of improving the access to our standards. And lastly on this slide is enhancements to our IT platforms. I want to state from the get-go that this is probably our number one pain point at the present time. We launched a number of IT initiatives last year. Some were successful, some were less so, and it's a top priority of the leadership team and our IT team to rectify these challenges and to improve our platforms with the ultimate two goals. One is to make sure you have a seamless, streamlined experience, easy to use. Everyone is expecting Amazon these days. We may not quite get there, but we'll get closer to it, we hope. And the second is we need an IT system to help continue to grow the organization. Last slide is, before I pass the torch, is, and I won't, in the interest of time, go through each of these. I'll just talk about a few that I think you would be interested in. We are launching a new edition of our industrial sterilization compilation. These are a number of peer-reviewed articles. We've probably issued maybe 5 or 6 of these editions in previous years. This is free to our members. We work with the Kilmer Fund, the Kilmer organization, to develop these, and they're worthwhile checking out. Again, free to members. This award of scholarships, grants, and professional development awards, that is also worth noting. We have a sister organization, the AAMI Foundation. We awarded $160,000 last year. This year, we're also launching for the first time the Kilmer Scholarship and Grants, and these are for sterility, for industrial sterilization, sterility assurance professionals, and so we're looking forward to that. Last 2 items, and then I will pass the torch. Tailored online content. So one of AAMI's greatest strengths is its diversity of its membership, but that also creates a big challenge for us in that we have different people coming to our website for different needs. And so we are implementing programs this year that will help streamline and focus the content to meet your needs. They'll know who you are over time, and you will start seeing content that is more relevant to you, so you won't have to go searching for those. And lastly, there's the evaluation of membership services and programs. And Sabrina will be leading an effort this year for us to look at those programs. And meetings like this are at the heart of efforts. So your feedback is really important to make that happen. So with that, I am going to pass the torch to Amanda Benedict, our Vice President of Standards. Amanda.
Okay, thank you, Steve. And hello, everyone. I'm Amanda Benedict, AAMI's Vice President of Standards, and I'm very excited to be able to share with you today some information and some updates about the AAMI Standards Program and all of the activity that's going on here. We do have a lot of new developments and projects that are underway that are of interest to the sterile processing community. So we can go to the next slide. One of AAMI's best roles in supporting the healthcare community in the development, management, and use of safe and effective healthcare technology is serving as a convener of diverse groups to solve problems, such as through convening our AAMI Standards Committees. And today, AAMI serves as the primary source of voluntary consensus standards, both nationally and internationally, for the medical device industry. We can go to the next slide. So to set the stage a little bit and provide some background for those who might not be as familiar with the rich history of AAMI as a standards developing organization, AAMI has what I like to refer to as a mature standards program. AAMI as an organization was founded a little bit more than 50 years ago. We've been a standards developing organization since we were founded, and we were accredited by the American National Standards Institute in 1977 as a standards developing organization. So this includes standards that are developed under AAMC's auspices that are intended to be US-based standards. And we also administer the US technical advisory groups and ISO and IEC technical committees and subcommittees. And these committees consist of experts, technical experts from around the globe. We can go to the next slide. Our standards philosophy is that standards should be developed only when there is a clear need for a standard, that they should be based on current technology and developed through consensus, and that they should establish performance-based requirements and avoid design specifications. So we promote the concept of one product, one standard, and one test worldwide. We can go to the next slide. So AAMI currently has under our purview more than 230 technical committees across our national and international programs, and thousands of volunteers around the world within these committees working on the development of voluntary consensus standards for health technology across a number of topics and areas. Sterilization is very important to our program, and it fits within device-specific standards, so those that apply to particular devices, and also general standards that cover processes and practices that apply to a multitude of different devices. We can go to the next slide. So I'm going to do a quick look back at 2020, a little bit of a rare year. I think all of us did some things differently due to COVID-19, but it was a considerably productive year for AAMI standards, as you can see. I'm very proud to say that we published 34 new or revised documents, and we set up a number of new work items and new consensus bodies to develop AAMI standards and technical information reports. One of our biggest accomplishments for 2020 is that we convened somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 consensus body meetings. Most of these meetings were web-based, so they were virtual. And there were some that we had to pivot very quickly to change from a planned in-person meeting to a virtual meeting. And I'm sure some of you were engaged in some of our meetings across the year. As you know, technology can be really wonderful, a great tool for supporting standards development. And one of the benefits to a virtual meeting is that it's a little bit of a playing field leveler. It enables people to join in standards development meetings without a costly barrier of having to travel to attend in-person meetings. Now we can go to the next slide. So in a moment here, I'm going to distill all the activity that we have going on to what is really specific and interesting for healthcare facilities or hospital-based sterile processing. But I want to take a moment here to talk about getting involved in standards development. All of you know how critically important standards of practice are, and you know that you're accredited to certain standards. So it's extremely important for standards of practice to if they're for a profession, they should be created by the profession. So I would heavily encourage all of you to consider adding your voice to standards developed within AAMI for sterile processing. And there are a number of ways that you can do this. If there's a particular topic area or a particular project underway that interests you, I would recommend that you join that committee or working group to have a voting role in that document. And by the way, you do not have to be a member of the working group or the committee to join in the meeting. Our meetings are open and observers are welcome. And it's a great way to come up to speed on what standards development processes are about and get a sense of how those meetings go. When we have documents that are issued for public review, we would encourage you to obtain a copy of that document, review it, and if you have any comments, to submit them during the public review process for the committee's consideration. If you have any ideas for new standards or technical documents, there's something coming up that isn't sufficiently covered by an existing document, please do let us know. We're always eager to get new ideas. And of course, if you're using the standards or the technical information reports and you have some thoughts on them, absolutely do let us know and share them. Our documents are continuously reviewed, and any opportunities for improvement, making them more usable, we'd like to know about that. So we can go on to the next slide. Okay, so what's new in AAMI standards that's specific to SPD and should be on your radar? Well, we have quite a lot of new developments under our sterilization committee and affiliated working groups, so I'm going to briefly highlight a few of them. We have a number of new projects. There is a joint AAMI and American Dental Association project that's about to get underway, and that will look at steam sterilization in dental practices. So we'll take a lot of the content that's in SP 79, which many of you know, Comprehensive Guide to Sterilization and Steam Sterilization, Sterility Assurance in Healthcare Facilities, and distill it down to the content that is really relevant to dental practices and enhance that content with additional guidance. We also have AAMI TIR 109, which is a document that's looking at external transportation of medical devices processed by healthcare facilities. So very relevant to sterile processing folks, and also we'll have some packaging components as well. And we've also just started a revision of AAMI ST 90, which is the quality management systems for processing in healthcare facilities, just getting underway. I also want to highlight that we responded to the COVID-19 pandemic in a number of ways. We produced very quickly 10 emergency guidance consensus reports that addressed and supported FDA emergency use authorization. So a very quick way to get critically needed guidance into the hands of those who could use it during an emergent issue. We also made 2 of our technical information reports in a standard publicly available to help professionals address the pandemic and respond to it. And we also produced a number of webinars that focused on sterilization, decontamination, processes and issues during the pandemic. Some of those touched on N95 mass decontamination. We also have some new publications out there. You might have heard that we have 4 new amendments to AAMI SP 79 2017 out there. One addresses environmental services, use of fans in the SPD and presence of food and drink. Another one addresses inspection of insulated instruments. We have added an amendment to address the daily cleaning component of routine care of sterilizers, and also documentation of BI lot numbers within sterilizer records. AAMI TIR 12, a revision of that document, was also just published. That's a guide for medical device manufacturers as far as designing, labeling, and testing reusable medical devices intended for processing. And then a new revision of AAMI SP 67, which sets requirements and guidance for selecting a sterility assurance level for those products that are labeled as sterile. We can go on to the next slide. Okay, so we have a lot of activity already underway for 2021. A number of standards that are expected to make it over the finish line early part of this year, so I'll talk about a few of those. We have AAMI SP 91. The current edition was published in 2015, so we have a thorough revision and update to that document. That standard expected out very soon. We also have AAMI ST98. This is a proposed new American national standard. This takes an existing technical information report, TIR 30, and elevates it and substantially revises it. And it will set requirements for development and validation of cleaning processes for medical devices. We also have a revision of AAMI PB 70, which specifies liquid barrier performance and classification of protective apparel and drapes. So gown levels. That is expected to be finished and published early this year. We also have a number of projects that are underway that have not yet gone to a committee draft vote, should be headed there soon. So now is a great opportunity to get involved if you want to voice in that vote and you're not already a member of that group. Under the same group that is producing ST91, so our endoscope reprocessing group, we have a new technical information report for dilators, transesophageal and ultrasound probes processing. We are also working on an elevation of TIR 34, the water quality document, into a standard ST108. New proposed technical information report that is addressing end-to-end microbiological quality and assurance of sterility. ST58, which is the standard that looks at chemical sterilization and high-level disinfection in healthcare facilities, is undergoing revision. We have a revision underway for ST65, which addresses processing of reusable surgical textiles, and a revision of ST67, which is containment devices. Okay, so again, if you're interested, now is a good time to get involved in those. I'm also pleased to announce that we have 2 new senior directors who have just joined the AAMI standards team. And 1 additional standards staff person has been promoted to a standards role, the standards director role. And all of us are very focused on getting these standards and technical information reports through development to publication. We know you need them. We want to get them into your hands. Okay, so we can go to the next slide. Okay, so there are a number of ways to stay up to date on what's going on in AAMI standards. We have a lot of information on our website, and you can find general information there about the AAMI Standards Program, our policies and procedures, and our listing of technical committees and projects. We also have Standards Monitor online, which will give you information about what newly published documents are out there, what documents are under review currently, what new projects are being started up, any committees where we need additional members, and we're always looking for clinicians, those who are based in hospitals and healthcare facilities to join the standards activities. We also list our meetings there. And I did want to give a heads up to this group that our AAMI Spring 2021 Sterilization Standards meetings are happening the week of March 22nd and March 29th. So if you're interested in joining in, please do. We'd love to have you. And as always, you can email us at standards@aami.org or reach out to any member of the standards team, and happy to talk with you about what's going on. So I want to thank you for your time today, and I look forward to engaging with you on standards. And now I'll turn it over to my colleague, Robert Burrows.
Thank you, Amanda. So I am Robert Burrows, Senior Vice President of Education at AAMI, and I have responsibility with my group for 3 functions. We cover training, certification, and events. So I'm very quickly in the next 5 minutes going to give you a brief overview of what's going on in each of those 3 areas. And then I'm happy to answer any questions you might have at the end of the session. So next slide, please, Teresa. So the first thing I'd like to point out is that we are still continuing to offer our full suite of AAMI core catalog courses. These are courses you're probably all familiar with in quality systems, human factors, of course, sterilization, which I've highlighted here on the slide, and other areas. That has been a very successful transition to virtual delivery. Frankly, it's something we'd experimented with before the pandemic, before March, when we had to sort of go home. And we've done a hybrid model where we were doing some live and some virtual. We were, of course, thrown into the deep end of the pool going all virtual, but it's worked out very well. Our CSAT scores, our attendance satisfaction scores are as high as they've ever been. We're using the same great AAMI faculty. I'm happy to report that FDA, as busy as they've been, we're very grateful they've continued to participate as instructors in our programs and do so virtually. And of course, they do participate often as participants as well. Some of the differences, as you know, one of the values of coming to AAMI is we do breakout groups and deep dives on the content that you're learning. There's hands-on activities related to the training that we do. The way we've replicated that, in the old days, you'd get with a group of 8 or 10 people and sit around a table with a device and do the thing you were going to do. We figured we wanted that same experience to happen, so we just mail the devices to everybody. Instead of one device per group, everyone gets one. Whether that's a thermometer or a blood pressure cuff or an EpiPen trainer or whatever it might be. And for a while, in fact, the only way to get a instant read thermometer probably was to take AAMI training, because we were shipping those out with some of our classes. So, but anyway, we deliver those out. We deliver all the course materials out. All of that comes right to the participant wherever they are. So it's very much like the experience they would have if they were in the AAMI ACE. We're offering those both in time zones to suit the Americas, West Coast, East Coast, et cetera, and time zones in Europe, so that we can have our colleagues there join us as well. And of course, as you see on the slide, there's always discounts for members, which I know many or most of you or all of you are. So be sure when you have folks register to log in as a member to the AAMI portal and make their purchase that way so they get that discount. And if you have a large group or you need some help figuring out how to register a group, please reach out to us. Next slide, please. This is just a little more detail on the courses that are part of our sort of core catalog at AAMI. And I just draw your attention, obviously, for this audience to those courses under the sterilization area. 3 of those are ones that you may be familiar with that have been ongoing. We do have a new course that's focused on aseptic storage, transport, and use of medical devices. That is an e-learning course. It's really aimed at a clinical setting to make sure the end users, whether that might be the HTM community, clinicians, or others that come in contact with sterile medical devices, really ensure that sterility and that aseptic handling all the way through to point of use and beyond. So that's, as I said, an e-learning course, and we're actually looking for ways to get that out there. So if you think that might be of interest to stakeholders of yours, your customers, your peers, whoever it might be, wherever you fit into the life cycle of the product, please reach out to me and let me know if you'd like to see that course and how it might be applied. Next slide, please. In addition to our core courses, we've taken a new approach this year, and it's one I really want to talk to this group of stakeholders about. I had originally called them pop-up courses internally. I was never going to use that term externally. I'm going to use it externally now because I know I'll slip and do it anyway. But when I say that, I'm referring to new short format courses that we have brought to market that's a little different than the way we traditionally developed AAMI courses, because we saw a need to be more agile, more responsive, and to get more content out to the market. So these are courses that we offer in partnership with a content provider, whether that's one of our AAMI faculty or a member like you may be, an expert in the field from an academic institution. What we do is we accept a proposal for that content from the partner. We vet that internally with staff and faculty. And if that proposal is accepted, we take the content of that training program, and these are usually, as the name implies, shorter in format, a few hours to a half day or a couple of short sessions over several days. We review that content with AAMI faculty, so it is peer reviewed to ensure that AAMI quality is still there, and any changes and modifications are needed, and then we deploy that content with that partner in a very rapid sort of way. So we've done topics like human factors short course, test method validation, FMEA without fears. But the reason I really wanted to mention this audience, I want to do a lot more in this sterilization community. So I would ask you, if you have content you think would be valuable to other members of the community, please consider letting AAMI be your platform to get that content out there. So if you have ideas for a pop-up or a short format course, please reach out to me and let me know what that might be. Or if you have needs for a particular area of content, please let me know that as well, or one of the members of my team. We are always looking to drive more of these courses. They've been very, very successful this year. So please reach out. Next slide, please. One area of content focus I want to call special attention to is the work that we're doing with the Society for Sterility Assurance Professionals. Brad Shaner, our VP of Innovation, has been leading that effort for us. I think you would probably all be familiar with this organization, but we can say more about that in Q&A if it makes sense. But our specific engagement that Brad is working on, in addition to our general engagement right now, is developing training programs using a new platform that we're using in AAMI training called Amplifier, which is an incredible adaptive learning platform I'd be happy to share more with you about in a longer sort of setting. But we're developing training. Brad's working with experts from around the world to develop training to allow stakeholders to meet the requirements of the new competency requirements in MDSAP. So that's something coming very soon from us. And if you have any questions about that, please put them in the chat to Sabrina and we'll make sure those get to Brad and either answer them in the QA today or after the fact. We'll follow up with written answers. Next question, or next slide, please. Finally, we're doing a lot of private training, AAMI. This is another difference in what we've been doing over the last year. We've always offered sort of tailored training based on our core catalog courses. I'm happy to report that we're doing fully custom training now. So in addition to taking our own intellectual property and modifying that for use in a private offering for you, whether that's custom or semi-custom or whatever the case may be, we're actually doing fully custom using our tools and processes and of course, knowledge and experience and understanding the regulatory constraints, et cetera, in our space to develop programs for customers using their own IP. So if you're looking for either private training where we deploy our IP or custom training where it's something entirely new, we'd love to support you on that. And we would be using tools like Amplifier and others to do that. Next slide. Okay, finally on AAMI events. So of most import probably to this crowd, the International Standards Conference, ISC, is October 19th to 20th in Arlington, Virginia. We're hosting that live. We postponed it for obvious reasons, but hopefully we'll all be able to be together then. AAMI Exchange is still scheduled to take place. Many of you are exhibitors at AAMI Exchange. Some of you are participants as well. We are currently planning to go live. It's touch and go at this point. We're going to have to see a lot of opening between now and June 4th to get down to Charlotte. We will make a final decision, I suspect. Well, there is a final decision. We're go until we say otherwise. But if we have to make a change and go to virtual or something like that, I suspect that decision would come in the late February timeframe, early March at the latest. So, and finally, we have the International Clinical Engineering and Health Technology Management, ICE HTMC, easy for me to say. A new event for us that we're hosting in partnership with IFMBE, very much a global event focused at cutting edge research and developments in the area of health technology management and clinical engineering. Absolutely hope you'll come down to Orlando and participate with us. Well, Lake Buena Vista, Disney World. And that registration will be going up soon. So next slide, please. Finally, in certifications, I would just point out that we still are supporting throughout the pandemic here our industrial sterilization specialist certification program. So if you'd like to learn more about that, please visit the website or reach out to me or one of our team members, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you have about that. But certifications are open for business, so to speak. Next slide. With that, I'd like to introduce Stephanie, our Vice President of Marketing and Communications.
Thanks, Robert. Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie Risk. I'm the VP of Marketing Communications, as Robert said. I'm really delighted to be here today. I'm one of the newest leadership team members at AAMI. So obviously over the past year, I haven't been able to get out and meet a lot of people in person. So this is a great opportunity for me. My goal with you today is to help you stay connected to AAMI. You just heard about a lot of things that we have going on. And as any busy professional knows, it's really hard to keep up to date. So I'm going to show you some ways to stay in the know about what we have going on. Next slide. So my first piece of advice is to connect with us on social. Me and my team are active on all the major platforms every single day. So you're always going to find some latest information on one or the other. We also have some really great, vibrant communities on there. If you join us on LinkedIn, just on our page, we have over 6,600 followers, but we also host the AAMI community, which you can join. And there's over 13,000 folks in that community. So it's a great way to connect and expand your network. Over on Facebook, we have another 6,000, on Twitter, another 4,500. And on Instagram, we have about 1,100. And I really have to tip my hat to the sterile processing folks on Instagram. They have a lot of fun. They are very entertaining. I look forward to their posts every day. So if you haven't been on Instagram and using the hashtag sterilization, feel free to do that. It's a lot of fun. Next slide. So we redesigned our website late spring last year, and we've been sort of in a process of continually updating what resources we can offer you as members on the website. First of those that I want to highlight is our expansion of our news and journalism efforts at AAMI. We've actually expanded to a big group of freelance writers, and our goal is to be able to provide you news updates every single day, and we've achieved that. So any day you can go to aami.org and you're going to find a new thing. You can also find that by following us on social, obviously. This is a service to you as a member to make sure that you can find information and interpretation of the news for your field right here on aami.org. Next slide. Hand in hand with our news expansion is improvements to our PR press release efforts as well. So we have a new sort of newswire service that allows us to reach hundreds of millions of readers. We've seen a big improvement in our coverage. We've had recent coverage in Wired and Forbes and MedDive and Business Insider, national publications like that. And this is one way that AAMI really uses to talk about the work that you're doing with us and to promote your industry individually. So we do appreciate you following that and checking out what we're talking about, because you may just see yourself in there. Next slide. BINT is our peer-reviewed journal, and a couple changes have happened to BINT over the past year. The first of which is we shifted to what's called a continuous publishing model. What we heard from folks like you is that they really wanted to see the articles and research come out as quickly as possible instead of waiting potentially 6 to 8 weeks for the next issue to appear. So we've shifted that. As soon as your article has been through the peer review and edited, it gets out on the website and you can access it right away. So you can see the BINT latest issues on AAMI.org and links to get over to where the main platform is where we host it. And I'll talk about some more changes to that as well a little bit later. Next slide. And lastly, I really want to mention our books and reference guides and white papers. We have a lot of member benefit resources on the website. In the book area especially is one of our sort of best areas for sterilization. We have a lot of great volunteers and authors who contribute content. So that's one spot. If you have not checked out the AAMI books on sterilization, it's a good thing to do. And you can get those at a pretty steep discount from our store. Next slide. One other way to help you stay in the know is to tell us a little bit about yourself. So with just a few quick clicks in your profile on AAMI.org about your interests, what preferences you want, we can, one, help reduce some of the email that you're receiving from us so that you just get the things that you're actually interested in. And two, you can sign up for some of our newsletters. You can see Sterilization Today in little tiny print on this slide, and that's focused specifically on all things sterilization. It's a monthly newsletter and it is included with your membership. So definitely check that out if you haven't already. Next slide. And lastly, just one last pitch about us on social. AAMI's always been great about answering the phone and checking emails and all that sort of stuff, but we also do respond on social. So you have concerns or questions or want to engage with us there, feel free to comment and all that sort of stuff, and we will be on there with you. And with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Sabrina. Thanks.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, everyone. What I wanted to do is take just a couple of minutes to review with you all the wonderful benefits that you get as a member of AAMI. And if you ever have a question about your membership status or any of your benefits or how to access them, please feel free to email us at membership@aami.org or call directly in. So between Steve, Amanda, Robert, and Stephanie, we've gone over a lot of these benefits, but it's just good to see them sort of written out. One of them, of course, is the opportunity to get engaged in standards. You are the front lines. You actualize all the work that we do at AAMI, and so your perspective is really important at the standards table. So we encourage you to consider participating on one or more standards committees and working groups. There are also opportunities at AAMI to be a leader. If you're interested in you like to lead and manage and set strategic direction, AAMI is always looking for more help, whether it's chairing a standards committee or really getting engaged in other non-standards committees, which I'll talk about on the other slide. Another opportunity to be recognized as a leader is to apply to be an AAMI Fellow. The deadline is 5 p.m. Eastern Time this afternoon, so there's still time to apply to be a fellow, but the AAMI Fellow program was started 3 years ago to recognize accomplished members in 6 core areas. And if you want to read more about it or you're interested in applying, please go to the website. And then Steve mentioned that AAMI and the AAMI Foundation provide a number of awards and scholarships to leaders across the field. We have this year added the Kilmer scholarships and some opportunities there specifically related to sterilization. But if you're interested in nominating yourself or a colleague, the nomination process for next year opens in the fall of this year. Stephanie mentioned the opportunity to stay informed. All members get 24/7 access to all AAMI publications and all social media, etc. So please avail yourselves of that. As she mentioned, every day there's something new, some new nugget, trend, resource, news coming out of AAMI. So please check us out and keep that I think you said it was Instagram going. The other thing that members get, of course, is a steep discount on the purchase of anything from AAMI, whether it's a certification exam. One thing I do want to point out that is really important to our sterile processing professionals is the e-subscription, which is AAMI's digital platform to all standards. And you can purchase individual licenses or an enterprise license for your organization to give you 24/7 access to our full standards collection. We also have special collections within that tool. In addition, any events that you attend through AAMI, you get the member discount, any trainings, and any purchase, whether it's a t-shirt to an event registration, you receive the member discount. There's an opportunity as a member to participate in AAMI Connect, which is the members only discussion platform. There are literally dozens and dozens of different threads, conversations taking place every day around a number of topics. So you can weigh in on a conversation, start a new one. We also have a great digital library as part of Connect where you can upload and download resources to share with your colleagues. So we really urge you to get involved in the conversation, be a part of that by getting on to Connect. I mentioned earlier the opportunity to chair, co-chair standards committees, but we also have a number of non-standards committees, and we're always looking for talented individuals who'd like to share their time and expertise. There are opportunities to serve on AAMI's board of directors, be a part of the awards committee that selects winners for our suite of awards and scholarships. You can be on the editorial board, and there are many other committees and if you will, service opportunities within AAMI. We're always also looking for content providers. So if you have a unique perspective, you want to share what your organization is doing, you have some expertise, always are looking for authors, people to create content for us. We really do welcome that. Robert mentioned the very deep portfolio of training and education that AAMI offers specifically to sterilization professionals. And as he mentioned, we're going to be expanding our offerings for you. So that is a place where you can build your skills and knowledge by attending a public course. We also do private in-house training, so we can come into your organization with special content, and as well as getting certified is really important for your long-term professional development. And then lastly, the opportunity to connect with other colleagues across AAMI's global community. Now we're reaching close to 10,000 members. We have the AAMI Exchange, fingers crossed, will happen in June of this year. The ICEHTMC conference in Florida in September. And then every year we have an international standards conference. This year it is scheduled for, I believe, October. So more on that. So watch social and watch our website for more updates on all of those events. What I'd like to do now is you've been gracious to listen to all of us present. Now it's time to hear from you. So we're going to pivot and take you to the question and answer session. So I would again ask you, if you'd like to ask a question, please go into the chat feature and send me a question, and we will endeavor to respond to it. I want to thank those members who did submit questions in advance, and I've showing some of those up on our screen today. So I'm going to ask various members of our leadership team to respond, if you will. This first question is in regards to the AAMI strategic plan. I'd like Steve to answer. Steve, tell us, are there opportunities for members to get involved in shaping AAMI's strategic plan? If so, how?
Thank you, Sabrina. I want to go off script for a minute just to do a big shout out to our colleague. Amanda and I have been to the conference several times, and the two organizations work great together on numerous projects over multiple years, and it's always so great to go to their conference, and we really value their partnership. Sometimes that word partnership is used lightly, but this relationship really is an awesome one, and we can't thank them enough. So to get to your the response to your question, yes, there are opportunities involved in the AAMI strategic plan. You may already be involved because there are numerous tactics that flow from the objectives and goals that I referred to earlier. So if you are participating on a standards committee or doing another non-standards committee, you may already be involved. But if you'd like to be involved and you're not quite sure if you're involved, please reach out to Sabrina or myself or anyone on the leadership team, and we can find additional opportunities for you to be engaged.
Thank you, Steve. This next question is for Robert. Robert, you did touch on this, but if you could reiterate again, any special training and education that AAMI offers specifically for sterile processing professionals?
So I think many of the webinars and other activities that we produce on an ad hoc basis are definitely aimed at that community. In addition to that, there are elements of some of the core sterilization programs that would be of interest to that community, but that's also an area that we would like to develop more content. And so I would ask folks to give me feedback on what you would like to see in that area, and we would love to develop more content for that community. I'd also call it those aseptic handling videos or e-learning product courses that I mentioned earlier. I think those might be of use to members of that community. They're really more basic than the level of knowledge of many in that community, but there's certainly things that you could share with your peers and others in the clinical setting to make the work you do more valuable.
Thank you, Robert. This next question is for Amanda, our VP of Standards. Amanda, what is a user in standards terms, and why is it important to have them on standards committees?
Okay, users in AAMI's terms are someone who is employed in and by the clinical environment, typically the end user of medical devices. So healthcare facility sterile processing professionals fit into our user category. It's important for us to have users because it's important to have a balance of interest categories on our consensus bodies. ANSI requires it, and it also helps to ensure that the standards that we develop are reasonably practicable. I also want to add, as a reminder to the healthcare sterile processing department individuals who are here, you do not have to be an AAMI member to participate in AAMI standards groups. Representing your individual expertise in the AAMI committees and in standards development is as simple as filling out and submitting a committee application.
Thank you, Amanda. Appreciate that. Robert, once the pandemic is past us and AAMI is able to offer in-person training, will they still offer virtual training?
Yes, next question.
Okay, good. That's great. Thank you.
We will likely return to what we were experimenting with before the pandemic, which was a hybrid model. So folks that want in person can certainly do so, and we'll use our extensive video capabilities in the AAMI ACE to stream other folks in. So we'll be serving all audiences.
Thank you, Robert. Stephanie, could you tell us how is our new digital publishing platform going to make it easier to get content from AAMI?
Yeah, so along the sort of spectrum of continual improvement on our web platforms, we have a new digital platform planned for later this year. What that is going to do is actually give you one single platform where you can access all of the resources from AAMI. So in today's world, if you want to look at BINT, you go to that platform. AAMI News is on AAMI.org. eSubs is at another platform. The AAMI blog is at another platform. In the future, all of these are going to be in one single place. You log in, you'll have your searches saved. You can favorite things, share things, save things in your account that you've purchased. It'll be a one-stop shop to see it all in one place. And we hope that'll be a big benefit for everybody.
Great. Very exciting. Thank you, Stephanie. We have a couple more questions on the next slide. Steve, we'd love to hear from you if you could just touch base about the efforts to fill the open CEO president position.
I think I touched on this in my slides, but I'll just, or maybe I didn't, I can't recall. So there will likely be a search that starts this summer. And as we hopefully come out of the COVID situation, and until then, as I think I mentioned, we're in good shape with a terrific board leadership team and the new strategic plan. So, and thanks to all of you who are participating in the committees, we're we have a solid foundation to move forward, but it will likely start this summer.
Great, thank you, Steve. Amanda, would love to hear from you about what does it mean to be a member of a standards committee? Can you tell me what the responsibilities are?
Sure. Well, it depends on the role that you have on the standards committee. If you're a voting member, you have an obligation to vote on official ballots that are issued to that particular group. So if a draft is issued to the group for a formal test of consensus, which is a formal ballot, we would expect that actually whether you're a voter or not, that you take a look at that document, you submit any comments that you have, and those who have a voting role are obligated to vote.
Thank you very much, Amanda. Stephanie, sometimes it's hard to find content on the AAMI website. Do you have plans to fix that?
I do have plans. So I'll talk about two things that are kind of near term for us. One of the things that we discovered after launching the site last year is that the on-site search appliance really wasn't meeting our expectations, and it's taken a little bit of time to get to a point where we can see some better results there. And we have some things right around the corner that we hope will really improve that. Second thing is that we will also be launching a single sign-on on AAMI.org. If you notice, once we launched, there was not a login on the website anymore. We're going to bring that back, and what that's going to enable us to do is actually create a product catalog of all the things that right now you can only find in the store back over on the website, where you can see it, search it, save it, that sort of thing. So in a few weeks, we're going to see two big things that I hope will make it easier for you to find things on the site.
Great, very exciting. Thank you. Robert, what's the process that AAMI uses to decide to develop new training topics?
Well, it's primarily feedback from members. So, and that comes in two avenues. One is, as I mentioned, we frequently get requests for private or custom training. And obviously where we have a program that already addresses that need, we use that program or tailor it. But often we will hear a request 3 or 4 times and we may not have that content. We say we should build this content. So that's what we do. So I would say, to this audience, that's one way. And then the other way is a direct request. Someone that knows we don't have the content, but's suggesting that we go develop that content or has that content, wants us to help them offer it. So, but the key there is it's so important we hear from this community. So we know what we know and we don't know what we don't know. So I would just encourage everyone that's on this particular meeting, if you have content, don't just look at AAMI and say, oh, do they do this? Reach out to us and ask, can we do it? Or share with us what the need is. And that's where our best ideas come from. So.
Thank you. Amanda, I just got a question from the chat for you. As a member, do I have access to the 4 new amendments to ST 79 or do I need to purchase them?
No, that's a great question. If you are a current owner of the current edition of ST 79, so the 2017 edition of ST 79, you should have actually gotten a notification that the amendments were issued. There is no additional cost for those amendments if you are a current owner. If you're an e-subscriber already, they should be included in the edition that you have access to. And if you are a first-time purchaser of, you don't yet have a copy of ST 79 2017, the amendments have been integrated into that document, so you can purchase the standard with the amendment.
Great, thank you very much. Great answer. And this last question we have here, and again, I encourage all of you to please send your questions through the chat. Amanda, my organization has an idea for a new standard. How do I get that into AAMI's standards work program?
Fantastic. Okay, we love new ideas for new standards. On our website, you can find, if you go to the link that says participate in standards development, there's a new work item proposal submission form. So you can formally submit your idea. And then we're happy to reach back out to you, work with you, get a sense of what the idea entails, and work to find an appropriate home in the AAMI Standards program for that idea. So keep those thoughts and suggestions coming.
Thank you, Amanda. And a question that came up, I'd like to hear from Brad Shaner, AAMI's VP of Membership. Can you tell us a little bit more, Brad, about SFSAP?
Sure. Thank you, Sabrina, and welcome to everybody. A little background on SFSAP. So the International Medical Device Regulators Forum, the IMDRF, recognized a number of years ago the need for a common approach, a global approach to auditing and monitoring manufacturing of medical devices. And The result was the MDSAP, the Medical Device Single Audit Program. And that's been adopted all over the world: US, Brazil, Canada, EU, Australia, Japan. The WHO has been an official observer of that. And in its compendium, it requires that medical device manufacturers certify that their sterility assurance professionals are competent around a set of technical elements. But it doesn't actually define those elements or tell industry how to do it. And so AAMI helped to stand up the Society for Sterility Assurance Professionals, the SFSAP. And what we're doing is developing a framework that can be utilized by education delivery organizations globally to fulfill those requirements. We hope that this provides industry a voice back to regulators to say, this is how we interpreted your regulation as a group, and this is how we plan to meet that requirement as a group. So it should save cost for industry members, make it easier and clearer, and really garner the support of regulators. So we're in the midst of working on that framework now with industry. If you'd like to be involved, give me a call or a shout out. I put my contact information in the chat. And we're working with the regulatory community and education delivery organizations as well. Thank you, Sabrina.
Absolutely. And Brad, since I have you on, I'd love for you to just tell AAMI a little bit about what we're doing in terms of global expansion, if you had a moment to share with us some of the updates on that front.
Yeah, so Robert mentioned one of the big ones that's coming up this fall. There's a Congress called the International HTM and CE Conference. It's actually the biggest event of its kind globally. AAMI was asked to host this, and we are doing that. It's going to be in September in Disney World. It formerly was in China and then Brazil, and then in the Czech Republic, and now here in the US. It'll have about maybe 70 to 100 countries represented, ministries of health, medical device manufacturers, ISOs, healthcare delivery organizations, all represented at this event. It's going to be really pretty fantastic. So I would recommend checking that out. Also, we've been doing a lot of outreach in Southeast Asia, in the Americas, and in Europe, trying to expand our footprint of educational offerings, and have a lot to share there.
Thanks. Thank you, Brad. And then there was a question that came in through our chat that I wanted to read to you, and it says, this is for Amanda. Are there any updates coming regarding attire in SPD? For example, scrub jackets recommended over scrubs, cloth hats, etc. And thank you for Kathleen for submitting that. Amanda, do you have any updates for us?
I can share that we don't have any additional amendments currently planned, but I do anticipate that the working group will have another discussion and talk about when is an appropriate time to revise ST 79. It's been out there for about 4 years now. We have 4 amendments. So we know there are some things that might need to be updated. So I can't say specifically that attire would be, because it would be too early to comment on that. But if you have a specific suggestion for improvements, please let us know. Send your thoughts. You can send it to me, abenedict@aami.org, or to standards@aami.org, and just let us know your thoughts. And I can put that forward to the consensus body. It's Sterilization Working Group 40 for their consideration.
Great, thank you very much, Amanda. And one final question from Jeff. Does AAMI have plans for providing more in-depth guidance in emerging technology used in SPS, such as instrument tracking systems, specifically tracking instruments to a patient?
So this is another excellent question. We do have some information that's in ST 79 about tracking and traceability. Again, if you have a specific suggestion, that sounds like something that might go into ST 79 in the future, or maybe it's a separate document. Let us know your thoughts.
Great. Thank you, Amanda. And that gets us to the end of our hour together. And on behalf of all of AAMI and our leadership team, thank you for attending today's town hall. And we, as I mentioned earlier, we will be in touch with a Q&A document of all the questions and answers from today, as well as a copy, a link to the recording if you'd like to share it with your colleagues in your organization. Again, thank you for attending. Have a great weekend, and thanks for all you do out there to help the health technology field. Stay well, and thank you very much.